Hello my beautiful watchers, and welcome back to Lost in Adaptation, the show dedicated to discussing the differences between films and the books they were based on. This would usually be the point where I quote or make a reference to the film I'm reviewing, but as this is my third video on this subject, I'm kind of running out of them, and quite frankly, I die a little inside every time I speak a line from this film. So, blah blah blah, 50 Shades of Grey. Looking at the survey, I'm not 100% sure why this has been one of my most commonly requested videos ever. The only answer I can come up with is it's a combination of everyone knowing this book by reputation alone, and a subconscious desire to see me suffer. I should let you know that without knowing at least the general plot of the book, a lot of what I'm about to talk about isn't going to make a lot of sense to you. Fortunately, in order to spare everyone the genuine ordeal of having to read this shite, I've prepared a handy plot synopsis video to bring everyone up to speed. Please do check it out if you haven't already. I have to admit, things got a little out of hand, but overall it's quite informative.
Because I'm 50 Shades of fucked up.
Right, again, this would usually be the point where I quickly describe my thoughts on the book and the film as unique entities, but I'm afraid I discovered I have quite a lot to say about this book, so it needed an episode all to itself. Again, feel free to check it out if you haven't watched it yet, though, word of warning, it isn't very funny. I have genuine and very serious issues with this book. If you're having a nice day and don't want to risk me bumming you out, the Cliff Notes version is, this book royally misrepresents BDSM, it plays very close to the line between sex and rape, and it romanticizes abusive relationships, both physical and emotional. Okay, let's talk about the film. It sucks, but most of what sucks about it is carried over from the book. Obviously we'll get to that in a minute. Other than that, it's just kind of unremarkable. It's competently shot, competently acted, again within the confines of the terrible lines from the book they were being forced to say, and competently edited, leaving me with only a few vaguely interesting observations to make. The lighting in this is not subtle. Ooh, red, I guess that means there's some dark passion going on. Word on the street is they had to refilm some of the sex scenes due to the complete lack of chemistry between the two actors, which begs the question, how bad must the first takes have been that this awkwardness was the improvement? My next observation kind of speaks for itself, actually.
Christian? Christian.
What is it about elevators?
Yeah, what the hell is it with all the bloody elevators? I'm sure someone would be able to come up with some sort of symbolism-based justification for it, but quite frankly, I think someone involved in this movie had a serious hard-on for elevator doors, and I wish they left us out of it. On a final note, I should mention that the book's author, E.L. James, apparently got into several huge arguments with the film's director, Sam Taylor Johnson, because she was apparently failing to recreate her vision of the story in the film, leading to E.L. James successfully gaining almost complete creative control over the recent sequel, 50 Shades Darker. I'd like to say that this is a sign that Hollywood is finally realizing that they need to respect the author of a story more, but I rather suspect they just decided that control of this garbage fire was simply not worth fighting for. Okay, let's finally talk adaptation. The plot of the movie seems to stick to the events of the book closely enough for me to feel very sorry for the screenwriters who must have had to have read it a whole bunch of times. Most of the key elements are pretty much verbatim. Interviewer substitution for sick friend, falling through the door, turning up at work, photo shoot, drunken phone call, friend-zoned Latino who needs to learn to take no for an answer, hotel room, Charlie Tango the helicopter, non-disclosure agreement, playroom, awkward virginity revelation, bow chicka bow wow, contract, laptop, emailing, more bow chicka wow wow, graduation, dinner with the family, angst over not being allowed to touch him, I'm 50 Shades of fucked up, trip to Georgia, please don't follow me, oh hey, I'm in Georgia too, but it's fine, glider ride, more playroom action, argument, experiment with him going all out, more emotional angst, and break up. There are multiple direct quotes from the book scattered throughout the movie, including, but not limited to,
Oh, I exercise control in all things, Miss Steele. I don't do the girlfriend thing. I'm not the man for you. I don't make love. I fuck. Hard. What we aim to please, Miss Steele. Laters, baby.
Other book loyalties include that Gray appears to have filled his company exclusively with hot blondes. The insidious appeal to people with low self-esteem that I mentioned in my book review is carried over well into the film. Anna seems just as awkward and devoid of charisma during the interview as she did in written form, making Gray's instant fixation on her equally surprising. The lead having a best friend who she considers superior in looks, intelligence, confidence, and ambition is also from the book's attempts to appeal to your insecurities. The somewhat inappropriate "are you gay?" question that Kate put in the interview and Anna blurted out. Anna impulsively using Gray's given name for the first time as the elevator doors are closing between them. Gray's sudden emotional turnaround mid-date and then heroically saving her from a bicycle. Good job, buddy, she might have gotten bruises from that lasted for days. The 3 books that Gray sends her retail price approximately $5,000 each, early proof that Gray seemed to believe that he could buy Anna's affections. The "I'm not strong enough to stay away from you" bullshit. As I've said in videos past, this is one of the places where the Twilight plagiarism really shows through. Their first passionate kiss in the elevator, or at least as passionate as these actors were able to get, being interrupted by some suits. Elliot, Gray's little brother, hooking up with Kate. Gray insisting that Anna have a separate room from him in his penthouse. Because such a huge part of the book was the emails that Gray and Anna send to each other, I knew they were going to have to figure out a way to include them somehow. Having the text floating in the air next to them was a decent, if not very original way of showing them, though I thought it was a little odd that they kept switching back and forth between doing that and just showing the text on the device's screen. Gray turning up unannounced after her "it was nice knowing you" email. You should already know why I hate that part in particular. Gray mama birding some wine into Anna's mouth. Ugh. I try to make a point of not judging people's turn-ons, but I can't help it. That concept really grosses me out. Somewhat amusingly, the film was meticulous in recreating Gray's playroom outfit with his bare chest and ripped jeans. Gray's flippant and dismissive response to Anna not being comfortable with him having a close friendship with the woman he slept with for 6 years, made hypocritical by his constant jealousy towards Anna having contact with any male human. Speaking of which, even though it's not commented on, they do appear to have kept Gray booking the extra seat on the plane to stop men getting near Anna when he's not around. I'm honestly surprised that Gray didn't hire a eunuch to follow her around everywhere. The flight in the glider does appear to be as fun for Anna as it was in the book. The way that the story just sort of stops instead of having anything resembling a conclusion. Come on, even Twilight had a fight at the end, but this film seems to think that an elevator door closing is sufficient excitement to finish on. So, you're really not going to acknowledge it? Acknowledge what? I can't tell if you're joking or not. The intro to the film is split evenly between Gray and Anna instead of just focusing on her exclusively. I only mention this because I wonder if it's where James got the idea to write the first book again from his perspective. Both the actors cast in the film are roughly 5 years older than the characters they were playing. I think they were trying to reduce the creepiness factor of all the softcore pornography. I mean, 21 is far above the age of consent, but it's still pretty damn young. They added in Gray stealing Anna's interview questionnaire in the film, presumably because they felt that Gray just wasn't quite creepy enough, so they had to add pickpocketing to his list of crimes. Now, usually a film's shorter runtime compared to a book is a huge disadvantage. However, here it actually works in its favour because they only had time to show things that were repeated so often in the book you ended up wanting to murder the entire world once or twice. I swear, in the book, Gray must have commanded Anna to stop biting her lip at least 3 times a chapter, and he was constantly trying to order her to eat and sleep more as if she were a disobedient child. There's also palm-twitchingly mad, the phrase that Gray uses when he's angry at Anna and wants to hit her for it, which comes into play way more often in the book. It's one of the things that's most indicative of the author's complete cluelessness when it comes to the difference between BDSM and anger issues. They also condensed a lot of cringeworthy flirting that went on in multiple email conversations, and combined the annoying way that he was always commenting that this or that was a first for him into one single moment when he lists them all. Right, Anastasia. To the film's credit, they tried so hard to make this character more bearable. I mean, she's still fucking terrible, but my urge to throw her into a pit full of various types of snakes was vastly reduced. This was achieved not by any one huge change, but by a myriad of very small yet surprisingly effective ones that added up to make the character way less of a chore. It starts with her actually asking her mother why her new husband hurting his leg means that she can't come to her daughter's graduation either, instead of just passively accepting it like a doormat. Then, even though she does it rather timidly, she actually acknowledges that Gray is buying a bunch of suspicious shit. I kid you not, at no point during this scene in the book does she pick up on the incredibly obvious innuendos he was making. Okay, I'm gonna need some cable ties. Okay. Some good strong tape. Quite a lot of rope. Sure. Some good thick chains if you have them. No problem. And, do you have any books titled How to Use Hardware Store Supplies to Facilitate Kinky Sex Acts? Well, I'll have to ask my manager. Gosh, there sure is some strange redecorating you're doing, Mr. Gray. Then, joy of joys, she actually goes as far as to mock him down the phone instead of just drunkenly asking him whiny questions. A very clever change was not directly addressing that Gray tracked her down at the bar by tracing her cell phone, so Film Anna is only guilty of not wondering how he found her instead of deciding that it was okay that he invaded her privacy like that simply because she wanted to shag him. The final scene of them together, where she tells him to stop in such a commanding tone that he obeys automatically, is added just for the film. In the book, Gray just lets her leave. This provides clear evidence of the shift in power that occurred between them when she decided to leave him that E.L. James often claims was a big part of the story, but apparently forgot to actually write about. In general, Film Anna just has more personality, more charm, and more open defiance of Gray's treatment of her early on. She's still far from being a likeable character by any usual standards, but I will gladly take her over her book counterpart any day of the week. The actress, Dakota Johnson, has made a bit of a reputation for herself by supposedly saving her career from these movies by delivering her lines with just the slightest hint of sarcasm, just enough to get away with it, but also implying she's aware she's spewing out absolute verbal shit. While I applaud this in almost every way, as she almost single-handedly made this movie significantly more bearable than the book, I do have to deduct adaptation points for it, as Anastasia is the least likely person in the entire world to have any sort of self-awareness when it comes to the gibberish coming out of her mouth. Okay, here's a slightly tricky one. While the book does try to pass Gray's out-of-control jealousy off as a positive sign of his love for Anna, it doesn't pull any punches in regards to its intensity or the problems it causes for their relationship. The film does. Early on, you can see that Gray is bothered by other men's interest in Anna, but he doesn't display anything approximating the dangerous cold fury of his book counterpart, and the music seems almost light-hearted, as if this was an amusing insecurity instead of a dangerous control issue. Later, when Kate started interfering and intentionally making Christian more jealous, wrongly believing that a lack of commitment was the issue between him and Anna, it's portrayed somewhat more seriously, but the overall effect is still cushioned compared to the book. Amusingly, Book Gray was described as being naturally very photogenic when Jose was taking pictures of him for the college paper. In the film, he just sort of stands there awkwardly. Admittedly, as Anna is the narrator, and by this point she's already idealizing him in her head, perhaps the film is just assuming that her version of events is not reliable here. Jose is perhaps made a little less rapey in the film. Unfortunately, there was a lot more struggling, begging to be let go, and kissing her before Gray turns up to ward him off. It's also interesting that Gray physically pushes him off her in the film. In the book, he just fixes him with an icy stare and commanding voice. I assume they changed that because, you know, it's kind of stupid. A very, very tiny change that you might have missed entirely, but I felt was there just for me, was Anna saying that her computer was broken instead of not owning one altogether. E.L. James, I know it's hard to convincingly write for a character who is so much younger than you, and things have changed a lot since your day, but here's a little hint. It is the 21st century. A university student with a stable job who doesn't own a computer is unlikely, okay? Take my word for it. Gray has a much more distraught and horrified, borderline panicky reaction to finding out that Anna was a virgin in the book. She might as well have told him that her vagina had a 1 in 6 chance of turning into a tarantula if he touched it. In a move that is unfortunately not repeated again in the book, Gray explicitly asks permission to fuck her the first time they do it, instead of just assuming she was up for it. The film dropped this in favour of his usual behaviour. As I discussed in my other 2 episodes, one of the keys to this book's success was the universal, unspoken decision that it wasn't porn despite the graphic sex scenes, which allowed it to tap into the huge demographic of people who would not usually get to experience porn for various reasons. This put the film in a very difficult position. If it stayed true to the book in this, it would at the very least be branded with a hard NC-17 rating, assuming it was allowed in cinemas at all. Don't get me wrong, lots of TV shows and movies have toned down very detailed and raunchy sex scenes from their books, but of course the problem here is that the raunchy sex scenes made up such an unusually high percentage of the book's appeal. Put bluntly, pornos are most certainly not known for their storylines, and trying to make one without any hardcore sex is not a recipe for success.
Hey there, did somebody order a pizza with extra sausage?
Oh, thank goodness you're here. I need some sausage in my mouth so badly.
Well, it's your lucky day. This is one huge sausage, and it's all for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Enjoy your meal. Pizza.
The filmmaker's compromise was to have more nudity than your average film, but still cut out at least 80% of the sex scenes and keep what's left decidedly softcore, securing it its desired R rating. I'm not convinced this was the best way to go about it, but like I said, they were kind of in a lose-lose situation from the start with this. While there was a lot of loyalty to book dialogue in general, some previously talking-heavy scenes from the book have been made entirely silent in the film, like them chatting at the piano post-coitus. I can't say that I disapprove. The less words from this book that I have to hear again, the better. In the book, Gray buys Anna a new car, then sends his driver around to get the keys from her and sell her old one. In the film, they have already taken and sold it before she has any idea what's going on. The difference here, of course, being that while Book Gray was being a massive controlling prick and making Anna feel really uncomfortable with inappropriately expensive gifts, Film Gray is actually committing an obvious crime. I mean, how did he even sell the car without the ownership papers? I wasn't aware being in the communications technology development industry led to making many contacts in the Grand Theft Auto circuit. The first spanking incident was moved to slightly later in the story when Anna was more invested in her and Gray's relationship. In the book, Anna was awake when Gray told her about his crack-whore biological mother, as she had traded another spanking in exchange for info about his past. I'm not sure why they wanted to change it so Anna knew even less about him than before, but there you are. The walk in the woods is film only. It's one of those classic adaptation scenes that's an amalgamation of quite a few others to save time while providing some nicer visuals than you would have gotten if they'd stuck to the book's original locations. Sometimes I don't appreciate them, but anything that gets us through this mess quicker is okay in my books.
Your name is the Dom.
Yes.
The Dom.
Yes?
And people who subscribe to you are your subs.
My beautiful watchers, actually, but what's your point?
I really can't tell if you're messing with me.
Like every adaptation before it, with the obvious exceptions of the ones that wuss out and add a narrator, 50 Shades the film had to try to get by without the book's advantages, i.e. the internal voice of its protagonist explaining everything to the audience. Once again, this is usually a huge disadvantage for them, as trying to convey the same things visually or through natural sounding dialogue takes considerable skill that few directors possess. But, once again, I think things are radically improved here by us being spared Anna's constant ramblings. E.L. James was not subtle in her writing. There are very few things about this story that need a narrator to explain it, as for the most part, it's impossible to miss. The only way I think the film maybe suffers for its absence is you don't fully get the same idea of how much Anna hates Gray's physical punishments, making her anger at the end seem to come somewhat out of left field. Oh, and one last advantage of not hearing Anna's thoughts, we're spared the 72 times that she says, "oh my," to herself. Bitch, unless you're George Takei, you have no business saying those words 72 times. It's slightly ironic that Gray's penis is pretty much the only part of either of these characters that we don't ever fully see in the film, as it's described in great detail in the book. So much detail. Anna is somewhat mesmerised by its size, claiming it was massive beyond belief, though as she has seen exactly 0 other wangs in her life, that doesn't really count for much. The lines from the book that I personally found the most horrifying, when Anna has to beg Christian not to hit her after he drags her off to punish her for making travel plans without telling him, is cut out in favour of him just giving her a stern telling off and then a kiss. In fact, they left out almost all of Anna's constant fear that what she says will be misconstrued by him and result in one of his violent mood swings. I wasn't surprised by this one bit, although I could have told them that trying to rescue Gray's character from the vile dickhead pile was a doomed endeavour from the start, as being a horrible human being is kind of worked into his every action in the book. I wonder if this is one of the things that made E.L. James whine that it wasn't her vision. In the book, possibly because it had gone 3 pages without a sex scene, Anna has an explosive orgasm wet dream about Gray poking her with a riding crop. The infamous tampon scene, which I've discussed in the review episode, is cut out, showing once again that these filmmakers have a much sounder grasp on reality than E.L. James.
You really don't know what the Dom is short for.
It's not short for anything, it's my name.
Yes, but it's also... You know what, I give up.
Huh. I wonder what that was all about. Anyway, the Dom's final thoughts. I got the impression that this film was trying to imbue just enough loyalty to the book to try to tap into whatever bizarre, random, cosmic force made it so runaway popular, but just couldn't resist the urge to try to make it less terrible. As many critics have commented on, the end result was it just being kind of dull. Not terrible enough to be so bad it's good, but not anywhere near good enough to be likeable on its own merits. That said, please remember I didn't find the book so bad it was good. I found it offensive in every way, way and promoting a dangerously misleading message, so I'll take dull over that any day. There was, however, only so much any film could have done to improve on the absolute garbage E.L. James wrote. Gray is still a horrible person, overall Anna still comes off as a moron for liking him, the sex is still awkward and unappealing, and the story still meanders around without ever really going anywhere. So, in conclusion, I would say that despite its best efforts, this film is a really good adaptation, and it has my deepest sympathies for it. Hey beautiful watchers, I just wanted to give you a quick reminder that there's a variety of rewards you can earn by becoming a Patreon, including early access to all videos, getting to be a part of the survey about how many people saw the film and read the book, or playing Minecraft with me on my 24-hour server. Higher level contributors can also join the Dom Skype chat room, and best of all, choose future episodes of Lost in Adaptation. However, if right now you are thinking, my goodness the Dom, I can't do that, I just immigrated from the land of Hyrule and I'm finding it very hard adapting to a society where destroying pottery decreases one's personal wealth. Fear not, if you would instead be willing to like, share, subscribe, or a combination of all three, that goes a long way towards helping my channel grow and reach new beautiful watchers. Have a most pleasant day and I will see you soon. You're probably wondering, why on earth would I choose to drag my suffering oh, I'm not wearing the handcuffs anymore. After punishing a sub, a dom will take great pains. I can't say dom, it's weird, I want to say dominant instead. But suffice to say, these are not my only pair of handcuffs. I really hope my parents aren't watching this. It's okay to take sex whenever you want, as long as you're... There goes the script. Even my script is committing suicide over this. It's not your fault. How do I look? Do I look pretty? Ah, it burns. Well, it's your lucky day. No, this doesn't feel like the porn star voice.
Hey there, did somebody order a pizza with extra sausage? My mustache is coming off. Hey, did somebody order a pizza with extra sausage?
Gosh darn this mustache. Adjusting the bosom.